Here's a simplified two-step method for coring thermals using only the feedback from a variometer with audio output. I think the easiest way to demonstrate this is with a simple schematic and in the Condor Flight Simulator. Here's the schematic with a bird's eye view of a plane. The path your plane takes when thermaling at the ideal bank angle and speed. And here's a thermal with the core shown as a dark circle. There is one goal: get that core centered in your circle. There's only one heading to shift your circle where you want it. And in this case, that heading would be here. The tricky part is knowing when you are at this point in rotation so you can shift your circle in the right direction. It is not at the point of maximum lift. If your heading is here and you change your bank angle to make a correction, you fly away from the core. It's at the heading your circle needs to shift. So again, if your circle is here and your circle needs to shift this way, then the heading needs to be pointed in this direction. But there are delays that we need to take into account. There's the inertia of the aircraft. There's the vario delay. We're looking at an average delay of about 2 seconds. Then there's a delay from our own reaction time. So if you add all this up, we're looking at about 3 seconds of real-world delay between when an event occurs, like rising air or a change in air from rising to sinking, and the actual response of the aircraft. That equates to about 45 degrees of a delay if we're circling, and about 300 feet if we're flying straight at about 60 knots. So now we know the heading we want and the delays we need to take into account. And again, just using a vario to keep things simple. Here's a two-step method to centering thermals. Step 1 is get the core within your circle. So as you fly along, you encounter lift. You get to the strongest point of lift. Now you won't recognize this until here because of the delays we discussed earlier. Right when you find an indication of a decrease in lift, bank over into your ideal bank angle and speed. Start getting a feel for where the low point is, high point of lift, low point of lift. And at the low point of lift, you're going to experience that low point 45 degrees later. Again, because of the delays. At this point, straighten out and fly for about 3 seconds, and then resume your bank angle. So hopefully at this point you have the core centered in your circle, and you can move on to step number 2. Step number 2 is a more gradual shift of your circle to get the core centered. But basically the same approach. We go to the lowest point, and again we're not going to feel that lowest point till about 45 degrees later. And this time, instead of straightening out your bank to fly straight, just reduce your bank angle by a few degrees for a few seconds to make a small correction in your circle. And keep doing that small correction approach to get the thermal chord. Now we'll show this method while flying in Condor. I've got the vario time constant set to 2 seconds, which is a good average time constant for a mechanical vario. And the audio is set for the vario for some more sensory input. And I've got the thermal helpers turned on for this go around. So flying the ASK-21, you see the instruments on top. You got the Vario left, you got the ASI middle, and you see the Vario go up, 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 up. And right here, bam, is where the Vario peaks. So I flying hard over to my 45 degrees, trying to establish my 50 knots. And I got my thermal circle going. Now I'm trying to get a feel for where the high point of the lift is in my circle and the low lift. So you can tell right around there is where the lowest lift is. I see where the thermal is coming up. Coming back around one more time. You see, you can tell where the lag in the Vario is compared to where the lift is. Now trying to establish where that lowest lift is in my circle, which is about there. And at that point, I'm going to try straightening out, flying for a few seconds, and then reestablishing my bank angle to try and shift the circle towards the thermal's core. But I've obviously missed it because the thermal core is still outside my circle. So let's try this again. Coming around, establishing where the high lift of my circle is, coming around to where I think the low lift is, and trying to catch just the lowest point of the circle at this point, right about there, and immediately reducing my bank angle again, flying straight for a few seconds, 1001, 1002, 1003. And this time I just get the core within my circle. So now I got the core in my circle, but I'm definitely not circling with the core centered. So now I need to do that other method variation where I make a small change to move my circle slightly over to get the core center. So instead of flattening my wings, I just reduce the bank angle by a few degrees to slightly shift the circle to the core. So again, at the lowest point, which is right about there, I reduce my bank angle by a few degrees, and then reestablish bank angle and bank speed. So now I've shifted my circle to try and get the core dead center. And you can tell by the wingtip pointing at the core that it looks like I'm pretty well dead centered, and the Vario's at pretty much a constant indication. Now let's see if we can do this again, but without the thermal helpers. Cruising along about 60 knots. Here comes some lift. Again, we're going to wait until we reach the highest point of lift and where the lift starts to drop off. Highest point, lift just starts to drop, so bank over hard. Now I guess wrong and turn the wrong direction because now the lift's going down to 0. So I just need to establish where the high point and low point of the lift is. Going back around, got my speed where I want it, got my bank angle. That was the high point. Getting back down to the low point, about 0 knots. And at this point, I'm going to straighten out. Fly for a few seconds, 1001, 1002, 1003. Back over hard again. And just trying to get that core once again inside my circle. So I think I lucked out this time, because now I'm getting strong lift in my full 360 degrees. 6 knots for low, around 8 plus knots for high. So now I'm pretty sure that the core is within my circle, but now I'm just going to try and do a better job of centering the core. So going around, got a low, so just below 6 knots of lift, going up to 8 plus. It's not bad, but I think I can do a little bit better job of coring the lift, centering that core in my circle. Come back around, coming down. High at 8. Low was just above 6. I reduced my back angle a few degrees. Come back around to 45 degrees. Reestablish my thermal turn. And now it looks like I've got the thermal cord. With the thermal helpers turned back on, you can see the low wing pointing at the thermal core. If you rewatch the first flight with the thermal helpers, I failed at my first attempt at getting the core within my circle. I was a little late in straightening out. So I hit my lowest point of lift. I waited too long to straighten out 1001, 1002, 1003, and did not core the thermal. So what this causes, if you keep on doing this approach, is a cloverleaf pattern around the core. On the other hand, if you do the same step 1 approach, but if you start your straightening out too early, you'll make the same cloverleaf pattern, but this time you'll go in a clockwise direction and you'll never core the thermal. So you can use this two-step method as a framework that you'll have to tweak based on your particular aircraft and instruments. It will take some trial and error to find that ideal point in your circle to make your corrections.